Hey kids, this is Mr. Little again. Hard to believe that it is week 5 of our remote learning. We are officially finished with all of our new content, Tides being the last one. Now we're going to be in the process of reviewing some of the material that we have learned throughout the year. And we're going to start week 5 off with physics. So we're going to go ahead and give you the oral recording for the physics review pre-AP quiz. As always, go ahead and put your first and last name. Insert the class period that you belong to. And here we go. For the pre-AP quiz, there are 15 questions. Here we go. What is the net force acting on a balanced object? Balanced object. 0, less than 0, greater than 1, or the difference between the forces? Question 2 is a fillable. Remember, do not include the unit. You want to round your answer to the nearest whole number for this particular question. It says a sailboat with a mass of 2,000 kilograms is pushed by a steady wind with a force of 4,000 newtons. What is the acceleration of the sailboat? Remember your triangle, kids. Remember, you'll have to manipulate that triangle to go ahead and get an acceleration in this particular instance. Question number 3, what is the speed of line D? So this line right here, okay, on this graph, you've got time on the x-axis, distance in feet on the y-axis. I want you to round your answer to the nearest hundredth and do not include the units. So again, looking for the nearest hundredth, remember that is going to be your decimal and then two positions to the right, if you will. So 0.00 for instance. Obviously that's not the right answer, but to kind of give you an idea of what I'm looking for. Okay, next question. Which statement best summarizes Newton's law of action-reaction? Friction slows objects. All forces act in pairs. Force equals mass times acceleration. Or an object in motion tends to stay in motion. Remember the Newton's law of action-reaction, which is Newton's third law of motion. Next question. A man is driving in his car and runs into a log across the road. His car comes to a sudden stop. According to Newton's law of inertia, what would happen to the man if he were not wearing his seatbelt? He would not move, he would gain mass, he would continue to move forward, or he would begin to move backwards. Next question. What is the net force applied to the box? If you look at the diagram here, you've got 50 newtons of force being applied to the right, and an additional 50 newtons of force being applied to the right. Does the net force equal 0 newtons, 50 newtons to the right, 100 newtons to the left, or 100 newtons to the right? A motorcycle is traveling 35 miles per hour as it slows as it approaches a stop sign. This is an example of acceleration, distance, speed, or velocity. Next question. If a force of 50 newtons is applied to each of the 3 objects, which one will have the least acceleration? There you can see object X has a mass of 38 grams and a volume of 32 cubic centimeters. Object Y has a mass of 36 grams and a volume of 19 cubic centimeters. And object Z has a mass of 21 grams and a volume of 35 cubic centimeters. So which one's going to have the least acceleration? Object X because it has the greatest mass, object Y because it has the least volume, object Z because it has the least mass, or object Z because it has the greatest volume. Next question. A bike racer is moving 17 kilometers per hour in a southerly direction. This is an example of distance, speed, velocity, or acceleration. Another question where you will have to round your answer to the nearest whole number. And again, kids, please do not include units. The computer does not understand it when you include units. How much force is required to accelerate a 200 kilogram go-kart 5 meters per second squared? How much force? Next question. 2 children are fighting over a jump rope. They each have one end of the jump rope in their hands and are pulling in opposite directions. The jump rope is not moving and the children are not moving. What is true about the forces acting on the jump rope? The forces are balanced, the forces are unbalanced, the forces are accelerating, or the forces are applied in the same direction. Next question. According to one of Newton's laws, what causes an object that is at rest to stay at rest? Is it force, inertia, gravity, or friction? Next question. Which statement best describes the difference between speed and velocity? Velocity is related to position, but speed is not. Velocity does not depend on time, but speed does. Velocity has a specific direction, but speed does not. Velocity is plotted on the x-axis of a graph, and speed is plotted on the y-axis. Next question. Another one where you will have to include both magnitude, unit, and direction. For instance, you would say 5 newtons to the left, or 50 newtons up, or 20 newtons down, and so forth. So make sure you're including all of that information. Remember, it says it's including both your magnitude, unit, and direction. So what is the net force in the diagram below? You've got 45 newtons applied to the left. You've got 65 newtons applied to the right. Last question. Caleb's parents drove him to a swim meet 208 kilometers away. It took them 2 hours, which included a 15-minute break to refuel. What was their average driving speed in kilometers per hour? Round your answer to the nearest tenth. Do not include the units. Remember, we're interested in the driving speed. That should conclude Week 5's Pre-AP Physics Review quiz. Have a great day, kids.